eyes are on their game against Betis today, the last game of the season for Real Madrid in La Liga. That finished 0-0. Nothing too much to talk about there, except for the lineup that Carlo Ancelotti put out, and it was a very strong lineup. Headlines in the Spanish press today was the final in Paris starts today. All eyes on it. Maybe a few question marks over a few positions as we now welcome in tonight to our panel. Sid Lowe at the Bernabeu.
Oh, that was a long start, wasn't it? You're not used to that long piece at the start.
I forgot my own name. That's what it was. Julien Laurent is with us as well. But I want to start with you, Sid, because I want to talk about that lineup that Ancelotti did put out there. He said people shouldn't read too much into it, but we have to, don't we?
Yeah, of course we do. And we do as well because of what Ancelotti has said over the last 2 weeks. He talked immediately after Real Madrid won the league about using these weeks to rest players that needed resting, but also to keep players moving, to keep the momentum going. And he'd singled out this game at the very start of this run to say, what we want to do is get to the Betis game ready. And this was always likely to be kind of a dress rehearsal, if you like, for the final. So I think we were all watching tonight to see what the starting 11 would be, with the belief, which may, I think, be proven wrong by maybe one player or two, but certainly not more than that the starting 11 tonight was likely to be the starting 11 in Paris. Now, I must say, I think that what we saw tonight probably won't be quite what we see in Paris. My guess, but it is only a guess at this stage, is that instead of Rodrygo, we'll see Valverde in the side. But I think that's likely to be the starting 11, depending, of course, on what happens in terms of the fitness of David Alaba.
What do you reckon, Pablo? Rodrygo or Valverde?
Well, it's a hard question, to be honest, Kay. They've both been brilliant. I think Rodrygo had a magnificent end of the season with such important goals. But also Valverde, I think, been great the whole season. Physically, he's really strong, very dynamic, a box-to-box player that's, I think, would be a very tough, decision for Ancelotti to make in Paris next week.
It's a big decision, isn't it? Obviously, this is the last chance, and they've got 8 days now until that final.
I do agree. There's one decision to be made at the back, and that will be probably made for him with the fitness of David Alaba. And then the only other position that really is up for grabs, because Camavinga's not going to play before Casemiro, although he's looked really good recently. He will go with that experience, particularly with the Liverpool front three. But I've always said, and I've said for the last 3 or 4 weeks, I think he'll play Valverde. And I think one of the reasons is that Rodrygo will be equally effective off the bench like he was against Manchester City. And 2, Valverde gives him a bit more of everything. He can dig, he can tackle, he can get box to box. He's pretty good on the ball, he'll get in the box. But more importantly, somebody will have to track Andy Robertson. Not only Andy Robertson, but if everyone's fit, Luis Diaz will be on that side as well. That's a lot for Carvajal. That's a lot not to have somebody who's going to double back and watch those players and possibly tuck into midfield. And I think for those reasons, I think it's a tiny bit more conservative playing Valverde, but I think it would be, in my opinion, the right decision. Having watched him in the games against Manchester City, he's a damn good player, but he gives them a bit more defensive cover as well.
Jules, what are your thoughts on it all?
Yeah, I agree with what Craig just said. I think as an impact sub, we've seen already in the Champions League, what Rodrygo can do. The Man City game, the Chelsea game, of course, with that goal on the volley. Even the PSG game, him and Camavinga have been perfect coming on for the last half hour, 20, 25 minutes, depending what the score is and what the game is what the game is like. And I think Valverde, again, for the same reason that Craig gave, defensively, especially on that left-hand side for Liverpool, he will be a key player, not just to protect Carvajal and to help out Carvajal, but also Luka Modric would be on that side, and Luka Modric can't spend his whole game just covering and coming across and shuffling on that right-hand side to cover for Robertson's going up and down that left wing. So Valverde would be perfect for that. It's, as always, would be a hybrid 4-4-2 when they don't have the ball, and Valverde really plays on the right-hand side, and then a 4-3-3 where Valverde has more freedom, I guess, when they have the ball, when they're on the ball. So I think, for me, there's not even a debate right now. I don't think Rodrygo can start that final, and I think Valverde would be the 11th man.
Just going back to the fact that it was the last La Liga game of the season for Real Madrid, Sid, was Gareth Bale there tonight?
Gareth Bale was the last man left out of the squad, so they named the preliminary squad and then left 2 players out of it. One, of course, is a third goalkeeper, and the other one was Gareth Bale. Now, so he wasn't in the squad. We haven't been able to find out whether he was in the stadium. There was certainly no mention of him, and at the end of the game, you had a little bit of applause for Marcelo and Isco, who we believe have played their last game, but nothing said about Bale. Now, of course, it's different because Marcelo and Isco were on the pitch, and there wasn't any kind of formal post-game celebrations of those 2 players, I suppose in part because then you would probably have to take Bale into that, even if you weren't really intending to. So I must confess, we haven't been able to confirm whether Bale was actually in the stadium.
It's a shame, said in some sense it's been soured, or it seems to have been, because, you know, laterally, of course, it has not been good, and he's played a big part in that. But there was a lot that was really, really good for long periods initially at this club.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, you look at Gareth Bale's achievements at Real Madrid, and they are gigantic. Now, there's no doubt about it. These last 2 years, you could maybe even go even further than 2 years. You could perhaps even put the cut-off point at the end of the final in Kiev, the last time they played Liverpool. And you just wonder if these last 2 years have just been 2 years too long, or maybe even longer than that. But what Gareth Bale's achieved here is absolutely extraordinary. The impact that he's had in really, really big games, the Champions League finals, the number of goals he scored, which is over 100. He has been, in those terms at least, a great Real Madrid player. But of course, this is about something that goes beyond the statistics or beyond the achievement to something about affection, something about a sense of commitment, a sense of engagement with the club. And for the last 2.5 years or so, that just hasn't been there. And it's a real pity. I agree with you. It's sad more than anything else that it's come to this.
Pablo, how will you remember Gareth Bale's time at Real Madrid?
Oh, I thought you're going to ask me when he was at Spurs and he was playing in the same side with me, and he was like really, really fast. Listen, it's a shame. It's a real shame the way he's leaving the club, because for me it's been absolutely fantastic for Real Madrid, especially the first 4 to 5 years at the club. It's been I was just looking at what he really achieved for the club, and he's incredible. So. But he's still 32. I mean, he's not that old. So hopefully he doesn't, he still have that passion for football to carry on playing wherever he goes. For me, he's still got, a lot of football to still, do and play and enjoy. But it's a shame. It's a shame because, at Real Madrid, when you are there, in a big club, you have to behave like a professional player, and last 2 years probably not being good enough.
But he's chose this ending, hasn't he? I mean, he's chose it to happen this way. Yeah, he's might not have been in the team a lot of the times, and yeah, he's had some injuries, but he's clearly been up front and basically saying, I don't particularly care whether the fans give me a send-off or like me, or whether I'm going to be at the stadium or not be at the stadium. So for all that great achievement, and I've been a huge fan of his, having watched him play at Spurs and all these games when I was broadcasting in England, he's chosen to end it sourly himself. There's no doubt about that. He could have helped himself, and he's clearly not fussed whether he gets a send-off or not. He's done what he went to do. He's chosen to end it the way that it's ended, and his attitude, and he's quite happy to go away and play for Wales and give his all. But he's also quite happy for his Real Madrid career, and Sid mentioned it, over at least a couple of years, to basically just peter out.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN+.